So to introduce myself, my name is Tess Fahlgren, and I am a writer from Montana. I'm an MFA from the University of Minnesota. I'm going to be entering my third year of my MFA program. And I've been working a lot on writing about the art room as both a student and as a teacher, especially thinking a lot about when I was a high school student and kind of like living in this rural place in Montana and feeling kind of, alone and just like all those teenager feelings. And then later becoming a art teacher there and what that struggle was like and how like kind of amazing and interesting it was. And it started to make me think about rural art education as a whole. And so I've been reaching out to art teachers and artists and just like asking about who they are and what they do in the art room and what the art room means to them and to their students. So could you introduce yourself? What's your name and where do you work?
My name is Kristin Bray, and I teach visual arts and media arts at Red Wing High School in Red Wing, Minnesota.
How long have you been there?
I have been at the high school. I just finished my 10th year. I've been at the district for 12 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what was your like art classroom like when you were young? Like what was the thing that you think about when you think about yourself as a young person being in the art classroom?
Yeah. So you spoke about rural art rooms, and that's
Mm.
me. I grew up in a town of 2,300. And so actually my whole high school career, I wasn't able to take art because I was a band student and a choir student. And if you did those, you couldn't take any other allies. And so my senior year, I decided I wanted to mix it up. And so I stopped choir and then I took art. And then it was like this whole new world of this, I guess it found all the stuff inside of me that I didn't even know was there. Loving to be creative. I knew I liked to doodle and, I was a creative person, but it really opened up whole new doors for me. My art teacher was just this lady with so much charisma and spice, and it was just this fun place. And when we were in the art room, it was like, wow, this is like a family. There were all different types of students there, people that I knew and didn't know, and it didn't really matter. It was just like this instant family in this totally different place within the school building, and I just absolutely loved that. So yeah, that was high school for me growing up. So I didn't get into that room until my last year. And then when I left high school, I actually decided I wanted to major in art, but I had decided to do photography and graphic design. And then got to college and kind of decided that I really wanted to work with kids and share that experience that I had with kids as well. So then I switched to art education as my major.
What is your top priority as an art teacher?
I always tell people that I want kids to be exposed to art. I don't care if they leave an amazing artist. I want that exposure for them. But more than anything, I really want them to see how art can help them grow as a person and tell their story.
What can art do for a kid? Especially like Red Wing isn't as rural as like where it sounds like you grew up, but it isn't the city, and I'm curious, like, is there something special or is there something specific about art and exposure to art that can help a student that lives here?
Art really, like our classroom really becomes a community, and it really becomes a home. And in our school building, our art rooms are right in the middle of the building. They're right by the front door. And so my art kids and the kids who really connect and thrive in the art room are coming in and out all day long, because it's a safe space where they feel like they can be themselves, and where they feel like, I think for most of them, that no one there is going to judge them. And so I think it really, and like you said, Red Wing's not really rural. It's, it's a little bigger, but there's still a lot of kids in our community that feel alone and that feel like maybe they can't really be who they are, or like there aren't other people like them. And so it's really, really cool to see the community that gets built in our classrooms, because I feel like the students who click there and the students who feel at home there are just so accepting of everyone else in the room, and the work they're doing is coming from their soul. It's not, they're not reading someone else's work or getting right and wrong answers. Whatever they make is their story, and so it's right. And I think that's so powerful for our students to have that as a tool that they're learning and that they're using and that they can take with them out into the world.
Yeah, I think so much about how the connection between art in the classroom and art therapy, and it's almost like art teachers should be trained in art therapy, because I feel like we're doing it, we're like, my mom was a therapist, and when she was doing art therapy, I was like, of course, there's no revelation there that art therapy is so useful, because art teachers are doing it all the time. Like, we're just actively doing that.
I say that a lot too. Like, I kind of feel like a hairdresser, because when the kids come in my room, it's most of the time it's not me standing there talking and them listening. It's them working, and I'm walking around to each kid to help them as they work. And so those conversations happen, and it does become like therapy sessions for a lot of kids, where, this is what I need to talk about, or here's what's been going on with my life, or here's what I think or what I wish. So very much so, it's a lot of art therapy in our classroom.
Yeah, that's so it's kind of amazing. I guess that should be valued. I want that to be, I want that to be this like kind of open conversation where we like recognize like how valuable that is, and support that, support that in our art teachers and in our classrooms.
I feel like our district does a really good job of supporting that. I feel really lucky that I do have a classroom where I can make those connections, because I know a lot of my colleagues have those tests coming up that they have to get ready for, or don't have the opportunity to roam the classroom and have those conversations as much as I do. And so I really feel blessed to have the job that I have, because connections are so easy in my room most of the time, and for most kids. There's just so much more opportunity to have like real, valid conversations.
So this spring, everybody went from went from teaching in their classrooms into teaching some other way. And I was in the middle of doing all these interviews, and so I started thinking of like the question of like, what is the art room when there isn't an art room? And like, can you tell me about your transition at all, or like what that experience was like for you this spring?
Our first question, my colleague and I, was, do they have supplies? Are we going to give them supplies? Like, what the heck do we do? How do you do a ceramics class virtually? And so, our admin basically said, okay, well, you have to assume they have a pencil on a good day and some type of paper on a good day, and that's it. And that really left us hanging, trying to figure out how to do, these classes with just that. We did kind of take it upon ourselves to make sure that when our kids came and picked up computers or things out of their locker, or band instruments on our pickup day, we just kind of made sure we were at school and could hear the radios. And when they said the kid's name, if it was one of our kids, we ran to their art shelf and got their supplies off and sent it with all their other supplies, so that we could get as many of our kids as we could, their sketchbooks or pencils or whatever we could send them out the door. So I would say 70% maybe of our students, we got them supplies that way, and that helped. Especially our more advanced students, we were able to get them those things. And a lot of students had supplies at home or were able to purchase things if they wanted them, but we didn't require that. And so it was just a matter of changing assignments to, here's kind of a theme we want you to look at, or here's some art history we want you to look at. and now use whatever you can find to make your artwork based on that. Versus us saying, we're going to teach you watercolor, here's your supplies, now practice and now make your watercolor artwork. We just had to kind of change how assignments were done. I have media arts classes, and so that was nice to have things that were already based on the computer. They didn't have some of the programs that they would need, but we did some adaptations as far as like analyzing media more. I was thrilled to be able to have my students be able to use art to document what was going on during distance learning and during the start of the pandemic. So like my media arts students all had to photograph their life during the pandemic at that time. And I'm hoping, I encourage them to keep those. Instead, those will be something that years down the road, when future generations say, what was it like during that? They can say, well, hey, I have these photos that documented my life. And so that was really cool. And it was cool for me to see what their lives were like and what they were documenting. My studio art kids were doing art journals. And so they were using art to journal their life during the pandemic. And so a lot of theirs were more like feelings, like I'm feeling trapped, I'm feeling lost. And so it was really cool to make that kind of the big part of their work during that distance learning, because I felt like that just had so much value in so many different ways. And also was kind of that art therapy piece that normally they have in the classroom that they weren't going to get in the same way.
What kind of images did you see in the photographs?
A lot of siblings doing homework. It took a while for them to figure out kind of what to do, but siblings doing homework, family dinner, them going around town. They took pictures of, the signs on the businesses, the encouraging signs in people's yards or windows, the hearts on the windows, their pets. Some of them, as it went on, it was like, here's me hanging out with my friends, which normally wouldn't be a big deal, but I'm hanging out with a friend. It was a big deal. So yeah, it was really cool. I think most of them are really positive images. There were some, that were just images of loneliness, like it's me alone in my living room, Yeah, it was cool to get to see what they did.
This spring when I was still in school, one of our professors shared that his mom had lived in Minneapolis during the 1918 flu epidemic.
Oh, sure.
And, and she had told him that when a house had the flu, they put yellow crepe paper on the outside on the door. And so you would like walk around the city and you would see like yellow crepe paper on the doors and you would know people were sick there. And like having that image from him, like I feel like it totally kind of like clarified my idea of what it was like to live in Minneapolis at that time, and like I knew abstractly that it was happening because it's a city and it was, like of course it was happening here. But that reminds me of these images that you're talking about with like the hearts and stuff. It's like, it's not published widely. It's not a famous image. It's a personal image of a daily thing. And that's like so valuable.
And I always have my students write reflections on their work. And it was interesting how many students wrote something to the effect of, I don't feel like this is a big deal. I don't feel like I'm living in something that's going to be talked about years later, or that's a historical time, but I know that it is. And so for them, I think it was like more annoying, that they weren't in school and that life was changed, and maybe not seeing the full impact of that at the time. But I think looking back at it later, or maybe even now, I think they realize like how big that was. And I think, definitely those images have that personal story to it.
What is the plan for the fall?
So we have 3 options. It'll either be all online, it'll be in person 100%, or it'll be hybrid. My guess is that it'll be hybrid, which means for our building, It means instead of being an 8 through 12 building, we will become a 7 through 12 building. They'll move the 7th graders to our building, and we will have 2 cohorts. One will attend Monday and Tuesday in school in the building, and then do online Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The other cohort will be at home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday doing distance learning, and will be in the building Thursday, Friday. So Wednesday we will have no students in the building because they'll do kind of a deep clean between cohorts.
Wow. But that hasn't been decided yet, but that's like one of these options.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. How are you?
You know, I'm at the point where I'm just like, just tell me where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
We'll make do whatever happens. I'm lucky that I will know most of my students coming in, regardless of what happens, but I don't know how I am. It's just crazy.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final question. I'm curious, what's amazing about being a teacher in Red Wing?
So much. I mean, our kids are awesome, but kids everywhere are awesome. So I think regardless of where I taught, I would say the kids are awesome. My colleagues are really amazing. I'm lucky to have beautiful art rooms that when they built this building, the teacher that was here before me got to help design. And so they're really made for an art room. We have beautiful windows with natural light. We have a beautiful room for ceramics and sculpture, amazing storage. I mean, everything is just great about our art rooms. I have a phenomenal friend who teaches art with me here. And so we're just lucky to have 2 teachers that really get along well. Our community is so supportive of the arts. It's awesome. I can just reach out and people help. They want to come in. They want us to come there. The Anderson Center has been great. Red Wing Arts has been phenomenal. During distance learning, Red Wing Arts reached out and said, hey, can we do a virtual art show of student work? And that was awesome. I had my AP Studio Art kids who were already photographing all of their work to submit for a digital portfolio. And they just sent those images to Red Wing Arts. Red Wing Arts put together a virtual art show of their portfolios. That was such a highlight of distance learning, was being able to show off my kids' work. Those kids work for a year on those portfolios and they pour their entire selves into it. And so getting to show that was awesome. And then they reached out again and they said, hey, can we print these off and put them in the windows downtown and do more with them and show more people. And so now if you walk in downtown Red Wing, those artworks are printed off and on the windows of buildings for the streetscapes exhibit downtown. So things like that, it's just like the community is so great, wanting to support our young artists and support our school and support educators. So there's just so many awesome things about getting to teach here and teach in Red Wing, and especially getting to teach art. I think it's really phenomenal to get to teach in an art community who values us. We had a referendum, and every time there's a referendum, arts risk being a cut. And my alumni came back and they shared stories online and they fought hard to make sure everyone knew how important the arts were and the art rooms were and the art teachers were. And the community stood up and said, we're not going to cut art. We're going to keep the arts around, music and visual arts and, everything. And so it's awesome to work in a town where people want you here and know that you're here.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just everything's awesome about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your students that you had taught in the last 10 years came back, and that is so amazing.
Yeah.
And how validating.
Yeah, it's awesome. And my current students, I had had a current student at that time who went in front of a room full of people and told his story about how important the art room was for him. And at that time, he was 17 and stood in a room full of
Wow.
adults and fought for what he wanted to happen in this referendum that he couldn't even vote for yet. So yeah, it's very awesome.
Wow. So do you have students who have gone on to do art?
Yeah, we do. Just in this last group that graduated, I have 2 or 3 that are going on to major in art next year. I've had
Wow.
a couple that have gone on to art education. Yeah, it's great. It's fun to keep following them online. I'm thankful for the internet and the opportunity to be able to keep following what they're doing and see their work and what they're putting out into the world now as young adults.
Yeah, I mean, this town, I don't know that much about it. The only things that I really know about it are the boots and the clay. It's like the things that make the city like put it on the map are making things,
Right.
and that's foundational to the existence of the place. And then I come here to the Anderson Center and the history of it, and it seems to just kind of add to that history and that like lore of making things and being like interested and creating, and that's so cool to have that just built into the history of the place that you live.
Yeah, and then to value that continuing too, I think is really a big part of that yep, that's our history, but it's not just going to stay our history. We want to continue to be creative people who continue to make things and share our creativity and share our story and keep Red Wing on the map.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really cool artists and art opportunities in Red Wing, and they just keep growing, and it's cool to see all those organizations work together as well, and not kind of fight and pull each other away, but they all work together in such awesome ways, with all different abilities and age levels, and including everyone, which is really cool.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you.
Go Red Wing,
Kristin. Go Red Wing. Yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I moving here now? It just seems like such an amazing place. Okay, well, that is like so lovely. Thank you so much for talking with me.
Yeah, thank you, and welcome to Red Wing. Enjoy your stay.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll be here for 2 weeks, so.
Awesome. We'll
Yeah.
get down.
Let me know if there's.
In the windows.
Yeah, I will. I will definitely go do that for sure. I have my bike, so I can just go check it out.
Awesome.
Thank you, Kristin. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Of course. Bye.